My intuition is telling me there'll be better days.
What's up, fam? Welcome back to my channel. So today's video I'm really excited about. I have been working on it for a while. It's going to be the best books for introverts and to help you embrace your introversion and to find the strength there is in embracing being an introvert. I found out I was an introvert, I'm going to say maybe like 4 years ago. It was when I took the Myers-Briggs personality test. When I first took it, I tested as an extrovert, and I was reading it and I was just like, this isn't me. And I didn't really understand the key differences between an introvert and an extrovert. I wanted to be an extrovert like most introverts do because that is what is considered normal. That's, you know, society's normal and the ideal personality type is. And I was even asking other people, I'm like, do you think I'm introverted or extroverted? And they had a hard time as well because I knew that I liked solitude and reading and reflecting, but I also enjoyed spending time with people. Deciding whether you're an introvert, extrovert comes from where you draw your energy from. All right. The primary difference between introverts and extroverts is how they recharge their batteries. Introverts are energized by the outer world. Most introverts like talking to people, engaging in activities outside of themselves, and working around people, activities, and things. Contrary to most of our perceptions about extroverts, however, they are not necessarily more outgoing or lively than an introvert, but their focus is outside themselves. Extroverts spend energy freely and often have trouble slowing down. They can refresh themselves easily by doing something in the outer world, especially since there is so much to choose from today. Extroverts may experience loneliness and a feeling of being drained when they are not in contact with people or the outside world. They may be the ones who are raring to go after a party, asking, "What shall we do next?" Often the harder part for them is relaxing and giving their bodies a rest. Introverts, on the other hand, are energized by the internal world, by ideas, impressions, and emotions. Counter to our stereotypes of introverts, they are not necessarily quiet or withdrawn, but their focus is inside their heads. They need a quiet, reflective place where they can think things through and recharge themselves. Creating energy isn't so easy for introverts, especially in today's fast-paced world. It takes more time for introverts to restore energy, and it flows out faster than an extrovert's energy. Introverts need to calculate how much energy something will take, how much they need to conserve, and plan accordingly. Instead of thinking like I had for most of my life that there was something wrong with me and trying to force myself to go out into the world more and spend time with more people, I realized that I'm just an introvert and embraced it, and there's nothing wrong with me. These are things that I need, and there's nothing wrong with me for needing them and taking the time to do them. My life has changed so much for the better. I used to feel a lot of shame and for not being like other people, and that had a large part to do with my low self-esteem. So if you would like to hear about the books that have really helped me to embrace my introverted nature and just helped my life and helped me to have more energy and learn about the way I think and process things, and a lot of tools that have just helped me in all aspects of my life, then keep on watching this video. This would be a great video for you if you are an introvert, if you've recently found out that you're an introvert by taking the Myers-Briggs personality test, or if you found out you're an introvert but you're not really sure what it means, or if you think you could possibly be an introvert. Reading one of these books will really help you find out for sure. And then if you are, you're able to start accepting certain things about yourself that you didn't accept before. So if you'd like to hear about those, then keep on watching. And if you do like this video, please let me know by giving it a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel before you leave. Okay, so the first book I want to talk about is kind of just like the quintessential introvert book, and was the first book that I did read about introversion, and it is Quiet: The Power of Introverts in a World That Can't Stop Talking. So one thing I really like about this is it talks about the extrovert ideal. And so it says, today we see this strongly reflected in the culture of social media. At the onset of this extrovert takeover, the focus was on how extroversion made a person more successful. Now it's almost as if extroversion is the expectation for being a good person. Huge seminars led by Tony Robbins and other self-help gurus posit extroversion as the best possible version of the self. And if extroversion is the best version of the self, it follows that the best leader is a highly charismatic one. Studies show we're inclined to follow a vocal, outgoing leader even when we suspect them to be wrong or dangerous. We fail to recognize the difference between genuinely good leadership and good presentation skills. If that wasn't obvious by our current president. With great introverted thinkers and businessmen like Bill Gates and Steve Wozniak, one wonders why there's such an extrovert ideal in the business world at all. So it says, at least 1/3 of the population we know are introverts. They're the ones who prefer listening to speaking, reading to partying, who innovate and create but dislike self-promotion, who favor working on their own over brainstorming in teams. Although they are often labeled quiet, it is to introverts that we owe many of the great contributions to society, from Van Gogh's sunflowers to the invention of the personal computer. Passionately argued, impressively researched, and filled with indelible stories of real people, Quiet shows how dramatically we undervalue introverts and how much we lose in doing so. Extraordinary book has the power to permanently change how we see introverts, and equally important, how introverts see themselves. And it definitely did do that. It's so funny that it says they dislike self-promotion. That is so true. I like hardly ever bring up the fact that I have a YouTube channel, like at work or just in my regular life. I just don't like self-promotion. I am just not someone, I get comments all the time like, oh, great video, you want to check out my channel? I have not once ever messaged or left a comment on someone's channel like, oh, hey, would you mind checking out my channel? Like, not once. I'm just not big on self-promotion. Okay, so the next book that I would like to talk about is The Introvert Advantage. The Introvert Advantage: How Quiet People Can Thrive in an Extrovert World by Marti, Olsen, Laney. And it says, at least 1 out of 4 people prefers to avoid the limelight, tends to listen more than they speak, feels alone in large groups, and requires lots of private time to restore their energy. They're introverts, and here's the book to help them boost their confidence while learning strategies for successfully living in an extrovert world. After dispelling common myths about introverts, they're not necessarily shy, aloof, or antisocial, the Introvert Advantage explains the real issues. Introverts are hardwired from birth to focus inward, so outside stimulation, chit-chat, phone calls, parties, office meetings can easily become too much. The Introvert Advantage dispels introverts' belief that something is wrong with them and instead helps them recognize their inner strengths, their analytical skills, ability to think outside the box, and strong powers of concentration. It helps readers understand introversion and shows them how to determine where they fall on the introvert-extrovert continuum. It provides tools to improve relationships with partners, kids, colleagues, and friends, offering dozens of tips including 10 ways to talk less and communicate more, 8 ways to showcase your abilities at work, how to take a child's temperature, and strategies for socializing. Finally, it shows how to not just survive, but thrive, how to take advantage of the introvert's special qualities to create a life that's just right for the introvert temperament, to discover new ways to expand their energy reserves, and even how, when necessary, to confidently become a temporary extrovert. So something that is also talked about are the 3 Ps: Personal pacing, priorities, and parameters. Personal pacing is learning to set your own tempo, the rate that allows you to accomplish what you want without feeling overwhelmed or drained. Personal priorities allow you to think about what goals have the most meaning to you so you can direct your energy towards fulfilling them. And personal parameters help you create boundaries to keep your stimulation in the just enough range, neither too much nor too little. When you learn to use these suggestions, you will find that you can achieve a more satisfying and fulfilling life. Pacing is also breaking activities up into smaller measures. Since you'll never sprint through life, it's important to know your own ebbs and flows, when and how you work best, how much time to allot to projects, and so on. If you don't pace yourself, you can end up feeling stressed and overwhelmed, unable to do anything. It gets worse if you procrastinate. We grow up in a society that promotes having it all, doing it all without limitations. But the fact is, we all have limitations. Introverts in particular. We do not have boundless energy. Our energy is limited, and we need to think carefully about how we spend it. This can be a hard pill to swallow. However, it can also make our life more precious. When we make conscious choices, it allows us to really appreciate what we can do. Many of the people I interviewed for this book had come to terms with the fact that they will not have as many friends, be able to work as much, or do as many things as extroverts do. But their friendships are deeper, they do meaningful work, and they enjoy the smaller, quieter, more precious moments of life. The more you are able to appreciate the advantages of being an introvert, the more you will be able to accept the fact that you have limitations. This does not mean something is wrong with you. Having limitations is not the problem. It is the meaning we give limitations that causes us so much pain. See if you can put a positive spin on your inborn traits. Say to yourself, I have low energy, but it's part of my nature, and I still get the things done that are important to me. Don't let yourself be boxed in by things you can't change. Once you accept this fact, it can be very freeing. And that is so true. And I have even more limitations now due to my chronic pain. So the very little energy that I did have is cut down to, it's basically non-existent. But I have to pace myself and not try and do so many things at once, because then I just become exhausted. You know, my friend was talking about how, you know, all the successful entrepreneurs and business people talk about how they only have like 4 hours of sleep, and they just wake up and they're able to go. And she was like, do you have to be like that to be successful? Like, all these successful people are like that. And I'm just like, I know I'll never be like that. And there's nothing wrong with that. Having a large amount of energy or being able to function on little to no sleep is not what makes someone successful. It's about the work you put into it and a lot of other factors. Okay, so the next book is The Secret Lives of Introverts, Inside Our Hidden World by Jenn, Granneman, and Adriana Lee. Okay, so one thing that I really like about this book that wasn't in any of the other books about introverts that I read was it talks about the 4 types of introverts. This was the first I had heard of that, so I was very intrigued. Similarly, we're all sensitive to different things. Some introverts are extremely bothered by noise in big groups, while for other introverts, crowds aren't a big deal. An hour of socializing might be too much for one introvert, while another can do a few events before feeling drained. Psychologist Jonathan Cheek, along with graduate students Jennifer Grimes and Courtney Brown, wanted to explore these differences. They hypothesized that there are different types of introverts, or in other words, different ways in which a person's introversion can be expressed. They came up with 4 types of introverts: social, thinking, anxious, and restrained. They named their model STAR after the first letter of each type. According to their model, a person can be predominantly one type. For example, you could be solely a thinking introvert, or you could be a blend of 2 or more types. Read the following descriptions and then which type sounds like you. Okay, so a social introvert. Don't be fooled, this isn't what it sounds like. A social introvert in Cheek's model isn't an introvert who is so outgoing that they can pass for an extrovert. A social introvert is someone who is introverted in a social way. It means you have a preference for hanging out with just a few people at a time. Or sometimes you prefer not to hang out with anyone at all. People who are high in social introversion like being alone. Instead of partying on a Saturday night, you'd rather stay home and play your favorite video game or watch Netflix. Of course, this assumes that you're staying home because you have a preference for low-key activities and not because you're shy or have social anxiety. Shyness and social anxiety are not the same as introversion. So that's definitely me. Okay, thinking. Like the term sounds, a thinking introvert is someone who is introspective, thoughtful, and self-reflective. This person daydreams and enjoys losing themselves in their inner fantasy world. We're not talking about neurotically losing a grip on reality, though. This is about imagination and creativity. Unlike social introverts, thinking introverts don't share the same aversion to social activities that people usually associate with introversion. So a thinking introvert might hang out with their friends all weekend, but then spend Sunday night alone journaling, daydreaming, or working on their graphic novel. Anxious. While social introverts seek solitude because they prefer low-key activities, anxious introverts avoid socializing because they feel awkward and painfully self-conscious around other people. These are people who are likely not very confident in their social skills. Unfortunately, their anxiety doesn't lessen when they're alone because this type of introversion is defined by a tendency to ruminate. An anxious introvert may turn things over and over in their mind, wondering what could have or what already has gone wrong. They may have trouble shutting off their obsessive negative thoughts. They may even stay awake late at night, playing events over and over in their mind. That embarrassing thing they said 5 years ago, it still haunts them today. I used to be like this, and there are times where I can see myself starting to head in that path, and I try and stop myself. So I think I've been very good about not ruminating over things. And restrained. Do you jump out of the bed ready to seize the day? Do you like to keep busy as much as possible? Is your motto, I'll try anything once? If so, you're probably not a restrained introvert. Restrained introverts tend to operate at a slightly slower pace. They may take a while to get going. They prefer to think before they speak or act. To relax, they like to slow down and take it easy as opposed to seeking out new or exciting experiences and sensations. They may sometimes feel sluggish and lacking energy. Oh, this is so me. And it's gotten worse with my pain, but I wake up, like it can literally take me hours sometimes to get out of bed and just to get going. I'm not someone who can just wake up and get out of bed and be like, all right, let's go. It takes me a very, very long time to get going. And I think that has something to do with why I kind of turned to makeup, because it does take me so long to get going, and doing my makeup is a way for me to kind of get moving, and it's also like just therapeutic for me. Like listening to music and just doing my makeup is very therapeutic, and it helps like lift my spirits and get me like motivated. So I have almost like all of them except for the anxious. And then it says the STAR model is a work in progress and not all introverts fit neatly into its categories. So something else that introverts struggle with is putting their thoughts into words. No matter what type of introvert you are, I bet you've experienced a scenario like this. A coworker barges into your office or a friend puts you on the spot. They ask a question, their tone of voice saying that they want an answer now. Their request is easy, but your mind feels momentarily paralyzed. You start sentences, then stop them. You say words that are close to what you mean, but not exactly. You backtrack. The other person looks at you, almost like they are saying, come on, spit it out. You think, if only my brain would cooperate. Trying to think of exactly the right words to say is called word retrieval, and it's something many introverts struggle with. In social situations, this may translate to us not being able to keep up with fast-talking extroverts. At work, we may come off sounding like we don't know what we're talking about even when we do. In the classroom, we may shrink from raising our hand because we know it will be hard to put our thoughts into words while our classmates stare at us. So then it talks about why we're like that. It says we process information deeply. We chew on ideas, turning them over and over in our minds, and often analyzing them from every angle. When you're in reflecting mode, it's hard to talk. Introverts don't think out loud like many extroverts do. We do our processing inwardly. Okay, so the next book I want to talk about is Self-Care for the Self-Aware, a guide for highly sensitive people, empaths, intuitives. The needs of the self-aware are different. Many of us are overly empathetic and many are extra sensitive to certain foods, medicines, situations, and people. If you have physical or emotional ailments, are overweight, have allergies, or are inexplicably lethargic, unfocused, or feeling lost, there is a reason. Your energetic sensitivities likely have caused you to take on the pain, unhappiness, and other disease of the people around you. Self-care for the self-aware provides a solution specifically tailored for you and your uncommon healing needs. So this basically talks about how you can take care of yourself when you are an empath or a highly sensitive person and taking on the emotions of everyone and everything around you. So then it just continues on to talk about different techniques and ways to release negative emotional energy. So the next book I want to talk about is The Year of the Introvert by Michaela Chung, and a journal of daily inspiration for the inwardly inclined. Every day it has a little activity for you to do. Let's see what today is. 4/20. Monthly gratitude moment. Even with our energy woes, we introverts have much to be grateful for. Write down what you are most thankful for today. Your list might include relationships, material items, experiences, accomplishments, or opportunities. If you are particularly grateful for one thing, write more in depth about it. I didn't realize this before, but every month has a theme. March was Creative Awakening. February was Self-Love Secrets. What was yesterday? Replenishing Connection. When you're feeling exhausted, you might be tempted to shut people out. After all, people are highly stimulating and therefore draining. But it's important to remember that it is the superficial relationships that introverts find most depleting. Emotionally intimate relationships that are built on acceptance rejuvenate you. When you're feeling depleted, you might need to be completely alone. Or you might need to curl up next to a loved one and let the warmth of human connection replenish you. And the last book I want to talk about is called Hidden Brilliance, a high-achieving introvert's guide to self-discovery, leadership, and playing big, by Katie Rizzol. I don't know. I really like this book because unlike the other books, which kind of explain the psychology behind introverts and society's view on it, and how you can conserve energy and tips like that, basically how you can survive as an introvert, this book talks about how you can thrive as an introvert, and especially if you are wanting to be an entrepreneur, or you have you're a high achieving introvert basically. And high achieving introverts feel the intense tug between the drive to achieve more and the need for solitude, between going out to conquer the world, fighting with the desire to simply be alone. And there is an Achilles heel that every high achieving introvert has: a keen sensitivity to inner critics, those voices telling us we aren't enough of something, not good enough, qualified enough, attractive enough, smart enough. Everyone has inner critics, but some people seem able to move past them more easily than others. For those addicted to achievement, like high achievers, this is the place where perfectionism breeds and where nothing is ever enough. And the introvert's tendency to spend hours a day thinking exacerbates the inner critic. As an entrepreneur and leader who is also a high-achieving introvert, I had lived my whole life thinking that striving, stress, and second-guessing myself was the only way to success, when in reality it was the one thing holding me back from true greatness. As it turns out, success actually can feel easy, free, present, and without fear of what might happen. In this book, you'll discover how to harness the benefits of being both a high achiever and an introvert in your business, whether you're a leader, an entrepreneur, or both. why the voice of your inner critics are so present in your life and have prevented you from taking bold action in the past, what to do and what to give up in order to be effective, fulfilled, confident, at home, in your business, and as a leader. Daily habits and practices that will allow you to tap into your strengths as a high achiever, to lean into leadership, and to do your best work with energy and enthusiasm every day. Greatness is absolutely within your reach. If you can discover how to harness the dual power of your audacious goals and your introverted ability to focus, you can do anything. So if you are someone who considers themselves a high achiever and you're an introvert, I think you will really like this book. Alright guys, well, I hope you enjoyed hearing about these books, and hopefully I've mentioned some that are new to you so you can learn more about yourself and being an introvert, and how you can not only learn to accept your introversion and survive in an extroverted world, but also how you can thrive and excel. Alright guys, well, until next time, alright, I love you, bye. This was a personal, shouldn't be last breath, I'm blessed cause it was purposeful. Never got the church that worshipful, please be merciful. But when you turn the way around it like personal, you chose me for a purpose. I put my soul in these verses. Olsen, I was never gonna be perfect. Sucker for women licking their lips and all these curses. Back when we were in the streets, you would think we'd grow to be murderers. Slip, she see the tears in my eyes, I see the fear on her lips. When I told you the only reason why I don't flip and go insane, my roof in the pouring rain. You knew me before the fame, don't lose me the more I change. No, just grow with me, go broke, you go broke with me. I smoke, you go smoke with me. When this curse is birth.